Thanks for joining us for today's episode of The Capitalist Investor. I'm Mark Tepper, joined by Derek Gabrielsen.
Mark, how you doing today?
I'm good, buddy. We got a very exciting topic here. I was going to say fun. It's not fun at all.
No.
So just kind of want to get into it quickly here because I think we got a lot to talk about. Right now, all the talk seems to be revolving around the economy reopening, how fast it's going to reopen, stuff like that. But even as the economy reopens, D, one of the things that I'm seeing right now is that there has been permanent destruction done to the economy.
No question about that.
And we're going to have to deal with that for the next several years before we can get the economy back to whole, before we can get S&P 500 earnings back to whole. And when I say whole, I'm just talking about what we did in 2019.
Right.
So, this caused me to begin to think, and I thought this would be a great topic for today's show, leading into every recession, there's always a bubble that bursts, right? So, let's just go back to, the late 90s. We had the tech bubble.
Right.
We had Pets.com trading at an unbelievable valuation. We had all these tech companies that had never made a dime. I don't even know if they were doing any revenues, let alone earnings. It was just a pipe dream.
If you had a website, you were going to get big dollars.
Yeah, billions. So, you had this tech bubble, right, where all of these companies were overvalued, ridiculous valuations, weren't making any money, and eventually people saw through that bubble burst, and it led to the tech crash of the early 2000s.
Right.
In order for us to get through that, the Fed lowered interest rates, which caused people to buy a bunch of houses, second homes, third homes, fourth homes, when they couldn't afford even their first home. So, what do they call those? Ninja loans? No income, no justifiable assets? I don't know. But they were like ninja loans, right? You didn't have to prove anything. There was no verification whatsoever. So that bubble happened to be a real estate bubble. Right?
That ninja thing, I've never heard that.
Come on, man.
I haven't heard that at all.
Look it up. Pretty sure it's a real thing. I don't think I just
credit for that.
Okay, that's fine. I made it up. All right. So, you had these ninja loans, which led to just ridiculous valuations on homes. And, I remember if you look back, to, the mid 2000s, people were literally going to Arizona and Vegas.
Right. And
they were putting like $5-10 grand down on a pre-construction home. And let's say that they would quote unquote buy a house for $400 grand. Well, it might take the builder 6 to 9 months to build the house for them because these were all, just cookie cutter houses they were throwing up. And you didn't have to close and pay for the house, obviously, until the house was built. Right. So you'd sign a contract to buy a $400,000 house. You'd put 5-10 grand down. And before you actually bought the house, you could flip it and make $100 grand because houses were appreciating that quickly. So that was the bubble that burst towards the end of 2007, 2008, which led to the Great Recession, the financial crisis, whatever you want to call it, because the banks ended up, they were left holding the bag. So it caused me to think, what the heck is the bubble this time? There had to be a bubble. Right. And some people are going to argue there's no bubble, it was a virus. But I disagree. I think, leading up to this crisis, I think there was a lot of froth in the economy. I think there was a lot of froth in the market. I do think there was a bubble. And I'd actually been talking about this, D, now for like the last 3-4 years, that this economic expansion was just, it was getting very, very long in the tooth. And recessions, not this recession, this is painful, okay? But traditionally, recessions are a healthy part of the overall economic process. Right. Nobody loves it when they happen, but they happen for a reason to clear out excess. Right? So, and it caused me to think, what are the potential bubbles that 10 years from today when things are completely different and we look back and we say, hey, these are some of the excesses that were going on in our economy that have now been corrected because of this virus. What do you think? What do you think the potential bubbles are?
Well, I think how I was thinking of this before we got on air here, if we just pick ourselves up and we plop ourselves in like 2 years down the road from now, all right? And let's say, God willing, coronavirus is a thing of the past, something that we just used to talk about. 2 years from now, we're in a great spot and everything's back to normal. So if that happens, and it's a big if in my opinion, but if that happens, what is going to fundamentally change about our lives and about this economy and how, what this show is tied to, how we can make money in the stock market?
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think, and I know you have something a little different, but my opinion, commercial real estate. Yeah. I don't know how it can ever get back to what it was before.
Yeah.
And when I say commercial real estate, I'm looking at two main things. Really, like office space.
Yep.
And talking with my clients, a number of them still working for large companies here in Northeast Ohio. They're telling me directly that this is never going to be the same again.
No, there's no way.
They're not bringing everyone back all at once. They're doing 30% of the office at a time, and they're rotating it around. So if you only have 30% of your employees in the building, I mean, just by definition, you're not going to need as big of a space.
There's no way. Yeah.
And then you see the unfortunate news. Companies like JCPenney's, Pier 1, I think, was the other one that came out a couple days ago. I mean, just
Neiman Marcus, Nordstrom's closing stores. They'll probably go bankrupt too.
Just these huge spaces that, I mean, well, what's going to go in there?
I know.
I can't even come up with a good answer.
Yeah. There's not a lot of small businesses that could fill up that space. Right? I mean, those are huge buildings or parts of malls or whatever it might be. Yeah, they're enormous.
Yeah, I believe JCPenney, they own a lot of the real estate in the buildings that they're in. So there's going to be a wind down process, and there's a lot of assets there. But
yeah.
But I mean, who's going to go? It seems like intuitively, it seems like a lot of space.
Yeah.
With I can't really figure out what's going to go in there.
Yeah, nor can I. Yeah. So that's a problem. Right.
So commercial real estate and office space, I feel, is going to be a lasting effect.
I agree. So I think I'm going to go with that. I think commercial real estate undoubtedly is a bubble, but I'm going to go with something a little different here. And I haven't heard anyone say this yet, so I'm going to take credit for it, D.
I looked up the ninja. I guess it came out before you. I'm sorry.
Oh, man.
No income, no job.
There you go. No job.
No assets.
Okay. That was close. No justifiable assets.
Yeah,
that was close. So I'm going to go with an employee bubble. And let's start off by talking a little bit about the office space first and foremost. So, this work from home thing with employees working virtually, that is something that companies have likely been resisting that transformation for years.
Right.
Or at a bare minimum, they've been trying to slow it down. Okay? So they've been resisting that transition. And this forced them to, get into it right away, right? And completely, take their foot off the brake and let this happen because it's the only way they could stay in business for the time being. So they had to try it. And I think most companies are realizing, okay, it works. We don't need the office space. Right? But the other side of that is this work from home thing also has some companies, and this is just anecdotal. I mean, I haven't read any research on this. This is just me talking to, other individuals who own businesses, companies doing 5, 10, 25 million a year in revenue. So they're not, these aren't Fortune 500 companies by any means. These are small businesses, right? The backbone of America. And what they're talking about is that this work from home virtual work thing has identified or exposed the fact that they've had excess capacity in the form of human capital. They've had more employees than was necessary. And what I've heard from people is, it was one thing when everybody was at the office, because you see someone go from office to office and having meetings with other employees that may not be necessary, and they looked busy, right? And now business owners are starting to look at this and they're saying, well, these guys aren't that busy. This guy works 5 hours a week. This girl works 10 hours a week. And the big thing that I'm hearing from small business owners is the term right sizing, right? And that's making sure, especially if as we reopen, Derek, businesses are only doing 70, 80% of the business they were doing in 2019 because it's a slow path to getting the economy back to whole. You probably don't need your entire staff. So that is my concern. My concern is that when we look back on this, there is going to be an employee bubble that burst, okay? I believe we are going to see double-digit unemployment for a long time. I mean, we got down to what, like 3.5%?
Yep, I think that was low.
We got down to 3.5%. When we were trying to hire somebody, want to know how many resumes I was getting?
How many?
One per month.
Yep.
For some pretty good positions. Nobody needed a job. Everybody had a job, okay? It was tough to find people. So guess what you had to do if you wanted to find somebody?
You had to overpay someone who might not necessarily be qualified for that job.
And steal them from someone else, right? You had to go and poach them from someone else. And yeah, you find somebody who is a C-plus employee at another company, and you say, I need you so badly, I can't even get a resume. I will pay you B-plus money, A-minus money, right? And people were jumping ship back and forth in search of, the best opportunity for them. I think that caused an employee bubble. And I think when we look back, that is going to be, and as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, when we look at this 2 years from today, 5 years from today, 10 years from today, and we look back to the way things were in 2019, before any of this happened, what is going to be completely different about the world we live in? Yes, there is too much commercial real estate, specifically office space and retail, and it's never going to look like that again, okay? The second thing is I don't think we're going to see 3.5% unemployment anytime soon.
No.
I think we are going to see 10+% for the foreseeable future. I think jobs have literally been permanently destroyed, right? What's your take on that?
Yeah. It's really been, I mean, it's such a difficult thing to try to talk through because people are dying. It's a terrible disease. But at the same point in time, the damage that is being done to the economy and as Americans, that's basically our way of life, right? It's the economy, it's having good jobs, and then going out and consuming, right? It's 70% of our economy.
Yep.
So obviously, besides the human part of the story, which is really the main part, but when you get past that, what I was really, really, really concerned about, and still am, are how are these jobs going to come back? Yeah, I can't figure it out in my mind. Yeah, and I know if you go on the internet or you hear your local politician commenting on these things, it's don't worry about it. They're furloughed, they're unemployed, but 80% of them are coming back, in a snap. Yep. I mean, that's not going to happen.
There's no way that's going to happen.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. So there was actually, the National Bureau of Economic Research recently put out a study, I think within the last, week or two. They said that 42% of recent layoffs could become permanent. So are people really getting furloughed? Maybe it's false hope that they go back to work. I think what businesses are finding is that even if they do resume the amount of business they were doing before, they were a bit overstaffed.
Right.
I don't know of very many business owners who are such micromanagers that they are watching every single employee's every move, right? Trying to figure out, does this individual really work, 30 plus hours a week? Because everyone is entitled to some relaxation at work, right?
You can't work 8 hours straight without taking
nobody works. If you're a salaried employee and you're expected to be in the office 40 hours a week, I get it, man. You need to rest your brain a little bit, I mean, occasionally you're going to, go have just a social kind of conversation with someone else. It's not 100% work. So let's just assume that on average, somebody who is in the office 40 hours a week, is productive, let's say 30 hours a week. I think what people are now realizing is that, well, that's maybe not the case, right? There are a lot of people that are productive, 10 hours a week, and that's it, right? So I think you're going to see unfortunately, some consolidation there that's going to be long-lasting, some consolidation within employee overhead,
For sure.
And that ties right into your commercial real estate bubble. Because if a company employs 100 people or employed 100 people in December of 2019, and now as they reopen, they only employ 90 people, and then on top of that, they can get half of those people to work from home. I mean, you're talking about a significant reduction in the amount of office space they're going to need, right? I think the office space thing, we brought that up before anyone else was talking about it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think that was one of the first things that we talked about.
Yeah. Now I think a lot more people are talking about it. So that's not as new of an idea. The employee bubble, though, is something I haven't heard from a lot of people. I was speaking with Muhammad Al-Arian on TV a week or two ago, and he mentioned this right sizing, and I jumped in and said, yeah, what happens when the PPP money runs out? What are companies going to do at that point when they're only operating at 70, 80% capacity and the free money they got from the government is all gone because they spent it on keeping their people employed? Right. So, that is definitely a concern of mine with regards to us rebounding as a society, as an economy. Like you said, Dee, consumption is 70% of our economy. And if we go from 3.5% unemployment, and right now, the numbers haven't told you this, but I'll tell you, we're over 20% unemployment right now, right? And as soon as we get that reading the first Friday of June, I expect it to be north of 20% without a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
So, obviously, our unemployment rate is high right now. We were at, let's say, 3.5% pre-COVID. We're probably going to be at, 13.5%, 11%. We're going to be double digits for a long period of time.
There's no question about that.
So what looks different 2, 5, 10 years from today? Right? I mean, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, we had the tech bubble, right? And what came of the tech bubble? I think you actually had to make some money to get a valuation.
Right.
That was the big difference. You couldn't just throw up a website.
Yeah.
All right. So that was the transforming moment coming out of the tech crash. What happened coming out of the Great Recession, the financial crisis, the real estate bubble? What happened coming out of that? You actually had to verify your income?
Yeah. You couldn't just get a loan for no reason. Yeah.
Real estate prices came down before they started going back up.
To realistic prices.
Yep, they started coming back down. Millennials were scarred by that, and more of them decided not to buy houses, right? So more of them were living in apartments, or some of them decided to just keep living in their parents' basements, right? So, I mean, there were a lot of transformative moments and themes that came out of the Great Recession. So what 2, 5, 10 years from today, how do we look different as an economy, as a society, if we look back and there was an employee bubble and there was a commercial real estate bubble?
I think I was thinking about this as you were talking about 2008 and, people, living, especially millennials, living with their parents or just renting, not doing the, the house with a picket fence type of goals.
Yep.
What we might be seeing is a more dramatic shift in employer-employee relationship. I think there's going to be some significant changes from hey, you're going to work 40 hours a week. You'll get 2 weeks vacation to start. You got to be here at 8 a.m. You can't leave before 5 p.m. I think it's going to be a dramatic shift, especially with this millennial age group getting older. There's really going to be a transformation in that, because it's what I think is going to be what both sides are going to want.
Yeah.
Right? And how does that translate into income? A 30, let's say, just a 28-year-old single person, would that person be willing to work for $5,000 a year less if they never had to come to the office, if they could just work from home, if they could,
work-life balance, right?
Exactly. If they could work, 60 hours one week, so the next week that they could spend it, on vacation or something like that, traveling, backpacking, whatever the kids are doing these days. I think it really is going to change how that relationship works.
All right, so I had no idea you were going to say that, but I like it.
I made it up on the fly.
That's good, dude. I like it. So let's talk about that for a minute. We're starting to run out of time here, but I want to talk a little bit about that. So I agree. So I think this is going to change the relationship between the employer and the employee. I do think the employee is going to look for opportunities that improve work-life balance, okay? I also think the employers, whereas in the past, the employers have valued presence.
Right.
People, their employees being present, being in the office. Mm-hmm. Even if they had nothing to do, you better be here.
Right.
I think employers are now going to shift towards, are you actually productive?
Right.
Which is good. That's actually really good for our economy.
No question.
It's not good to have a bunch of people who are sitting around doing nothing, but they happen to be in the office.
Right.
That is counterproductive. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I like this. I like where you went with this. And I think this transformation in the long run, while painful right now, and while it will be painful, I think, for the next few years as we continue at a double-digit unemployment rate, in the long run, this could help businesses to become more productive and to grow faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
God, you're smart. That was good. That was good. All right, so that's one thing. Let's just hit real quickly on what's going to be different with commercial real estate, and then we'll wrap up the show.
All right.
So from a commercial real estate standpoint, what do you think is different 5 years down the road? Other than there's a bunch of empty buildings.
I mean, to be honest with you, that's what I'm really worried about.
Yeah.
You just, 5 minutes from our office, there was a giant complex built that I think is completely empty now, except for a grocery store. And you drive by it, and it's kind of depressing to look at.
Yeah.
Yep. It just kind of signifies failure. I don't know how else to say it. You know? There is just, look at this big, beautiful building, and now it's empty.
Right.
What went wrong there?
Yeah.
There's just so much of it, and the way that this economy has been built, progress seems to be building more buildings.
Yeah.
Expanding. We're growing. We're building more. Just by me, where I live, there's just a brand new shopping center, restaurant complex that went up. Brand new
Love
hotel.
That place.
I mean, and you can tell they're evolving. I'm kind of getting off topic. Yeah, it was, instead of 90% shops and 10% restaurants, it's 90% restaurants, 10% shops. So, we figure it out. We eventually get there.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about the empty buildings because I just don't know what's going to go in there.
I know. Well, I mean, there's obviously not much of a need to build new buildings, I would assume.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think you're going to see high vacancy rates. And a lot of businesses are involved in leases, right? Mm. So this isn't something that's going to happen immediately. It's going to be a process that's probably going to, occur over the course of the next 5-10 years, right? Mm-hmm. As these leases expire and companies with 20,000 square feet decide they only need 5 or 10. So, All right, buddy. Good show. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. If you have any questions, shoot us an email, info@swpconnect.com. D, what's the YouTube channel where you post the videos?
So it's my YouTube channel, Derek G SWP.
Cool. All right. Well, if you want to go check out the video, go there. Everything is listed in the show notes. And we thank everyone for joining us today. Have a good one.